Wanted to talk also a little bit about what I think the importance of Ryan Grubb is. I know we've talked about him a lot over this offseason, but now we've heard some scrimmages. Scrimmages happened. Fall practice is obviously well underway. You've heard different things. Alabama's been in full pads a couple of times. You're seeing more guys doing drills, and I think that more things are starting to take shape. You're starting to hear more whispers about what Ryan Grubb is going to be able to mean for the offense. And personally, I look at it this way. And I've said this and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. The fact that Ryan Grubb has been with Kalen DeBoer a huge amount of the time that Kalen DeBoer has been successful, in my opinion, is not a fluke. Ryan Grubb is a guy who is absolutely incredibly good at calling plays. Obviously, him and Kalen DeBoer have been able to workshop their system together, and there is a reason that Ryan Grubb's talents were wanted at the NFL level. Obviously, he actually did well in the NFL, but it didn't work out. He decided, hey, it's time to come back to college, time to come to Kalen DeBoer. And I think that when you have a guy like Ryan Grubb, I think also the importance of Ryan Grubb cannot be overstated. The fact that you kept Nick Sheridan and you kept Jamarcus Shepard. The fact that you keep Jamarcus Shepard and Nick Sheridan, which were both co-offensive coordinators last season when Nick Sheridan calling the plays and Jamarcus Shepard being, mostly your wide receivers coach, is a huge deal. And the reason I consider that such a huge deal is this is the staff that he had at Washington, right? The staff that, honestly got Kalen DeBoer hired, right? Because not to say that he wasn't a good coach at Fresno State, because he was, or not to say that he wasn't a good coordinator at Indiana, because he was, but the reason why he was hired for the Alabama job, on top of his, pedigree of success and pedigree of winning, was what he did at Washington with inferior talent. And a big piece of what he was able to do at Washington with inferior talent was on the offensive side of the football, right? Now, do I think the defense at Alabama has been better than what you saw at Washington? Absolutely, right? I think that Kane Womack has done a phenomenal job. I think that being able to get Kane Womack from South Alabama last season and what he's been able to do on top of all the returners, I've talked at length about how good I think this defense is going to be this upcoming season. This defense is going to be phenomenal, right? There's no other way to say it. I think the defense is going to be really, really good. But obviously, I think the strides where you can take them this season is on offense. And that's not to say that Alabama had a poor offense last season. No, but there were a few games that Alabama definitely you could circle that the offense cost the team the game, right? The Oklahoma game, absolutely, the offense cost you the game. The Tennessee game, the offense cost you the game. The Michigan game, the offense cost you the game. Those three losses, you can guarantee that the offense cost you all three games. The only one that you can say the defense cost you the game was the Vanderbilt game, right? Now, did the offense also, give Vandy back the football a couple times and have some issues? Sure. But the defense could not get Vanderbilt off the field, so the defense really cost you that one. In the other three losses, it was clearly the offense that lost you the game. Now, did the offense also win you some games? Absolutely. Like LSU, I thought that was this perfect situation of the offense was clicking on all cylinders, and it worked out great. But last year, it was kind of you had to take the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, honestly. And that's where I think the difference in this season is. I think that when you have a guy like Ty Simpson, it raises your floor. Does it potentially lower your ceiling? I say no. Some may argue yes, but I think at a minimum it raises your floor. And that's the more important side, right? Because if you had, mid-tier quarterback play in that Oklahoma game, you beat Oklahoma. If you had mid-tier quarterback play in that Tennessee game, you beat Tennessee, right? Your offense was doing what it took, your defense was doing what it took to win those games. Your offense was just doing them no favors. And that's where I think Ryan Grubb, what he additionally brings for you, right? Was it also on the quarterback? Absolutely, right? Can't go without saying Ryan Grubb is going to look substantially better than Nick Sheridan looked last season because of the quarterback that Ryan Grubb has to work with and the skill set that he has to work with within the system as compared to what Nick Sheridan has, right? It's not fair to judge Nick Sheridan on the quarterback and the situation that he was dealt, right? Now, he was dealt it. You saw what happened. But it's still not fair to fully judge Nick Sheridan based on the offensive skill set and what Kalen DeBoer's offense is and what Jalen Milroe's skill set was, right? That's not fair if we try to judge Nick Sheridan by that. However, I would say that even without that, right, whether we want to judge Nick Sheridan positively or negatively, I don't think that that matters. I think that what really matters is that Ryan Grubb isn't going to be put in that position, right? We can, debate whether Nick Sheridan should or should not be judged based on what happened last season, and I'm okay with that argument. However, what we guaranteed can't worry about is that Ryan Grubb isn't going to have to deal with that, right? The quarterback that Ryan Grubb is being put in front of him is a more Kalen DeBoer style quarterback, is a guy who has some extra time in the system, is a guy who has some extra, is being named before the first game, right? This is earlier than Alabama has officially named a quarterback in quite some time, right? Nick Saban was kind of well known for he didn't name a starting quarterback until the very, very end. Kalen DeBoer is naming his starting quarterback, 3 weeks before the start of the season. This is a big deal, right? This is a very big deal that you're naming your quarterback this early. Additionally, what it does is it fully puts your faith behind your starting quarterback of, hey, this is our number one guy. In all the rest of the scrimmages that we have upcoming, this is going to be our number one guy. This guy is going to be playing with all the ones. He's going to be throwing to the number one receivers. He's going to be having the number one center snap to him. He's going to be going against the number one defense, whatever, right? End to end, he is the number one guy. And that's very important, right? And the reason that's so important is that, again, that allows him to be able to know that, hey, I have the entire faith of the coaching staff behind me. I have the entire players behind me. I have the support staff behind me. I have everyone behind me. And our common goal is that we are going to try to win a national championship. And I'm the guy who they've chosen to do that with, right? Ryan Grubb is going to get all of that, right? So I definitely look at Nick Sheridan as not being the reason why so many things last season went wrong. But Ryan Grubb, in comparison to Nick Sheridan, I think he's going to get some additional praise this season, and he's going to be partially made to look a lot better because he has Ty Simpson throwing the football, right? I think Ryan Grubb also just has some extra comfortability with calling plays. And then when you combine all of that with the fact that Ryan Grubb gives you that little bit of edge that Kalen DeBoer is lacking, and what I mean by that is the good cop, bad cop that we've heard on multiple occasions, Ryan Grubb being able to be a little bit more bad cop to Kalen DeBoer's good cop. I think that if things are going well, you don't always have to have good cop, bad cop. But the minute that things don't always go well, aren't going as well, some players and some people respond better to other forms of punishment, right? Just the constant encouragement is not always what everyone needs. So the fact that you have a guy in Ryan Grubb that's has a little bit more edge to him, a guy that's a little bit more in your face. I don't want to say mean. That's not what I mean, but like a little bit more, aggressive as compared to Kalen DeBoer. I think that there's additional benefit to that, right? And I think that that's something that Alabama was slightly lacking last season. Because I don't think Nick Sheridan was able to go against Kalen DeBoer in the same way. I think that Nick Sheridan was a little bit more positive of a guy. And so they didn't have the good cop, bad cop situation that he has with Ryan Grubb. Again, not to say that that's the only way that you can coach or that that's the only way that they're able to be successful, but I do think that you are getting that back when you have Ryan Grubb, and I think that you have to mention it if you're going to talk about, the benefits of having Ryan Grubb back this season. Simply put, I think that naming Ty Simpson your starting quarterback, combine that with the fact that you have Ryan Grubb returning as your offensive coordinator, this Kalen DeBoer team is going to look like a much more Kalen DeBoer style offense. This is going to be a much better offense than last season, in my opinion. This is going to be a much more well-rounded team when you combine the fact that I expect that the offense is going to be very good, and plenty of people have talked about how good the defense is going to be. The defense has been well documented to be one of the better defenses in the entire country, especially with who you have returning. The fact that Ty Simpson, if Ty Simpson is able to perform to the level that I think he is capable, the sky's the limit for this team. Because when most people are looking at Alabama and where they're being ranked in your preseason polls and where they're being ranked by other people, whether they be in previews or otherwise. The question mark is the quarterback. Now, Kalen DeBoer is given some levels of trust because of how well he's been able to develop that position, but the question mark at the highest level still has to be the quarterback. And again, the fact that you're naming Ty Simpson this early and the fact that you've heard over and over and over again about how much control of the offense he's had, I think speaks volumes. And I'm excited to see what a Kalen DeBoer, Ty Simpson-led team is going to look like this upcoming season. So, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Like I said, I really do appreciate it. I have another episode that I plan to record this week. We're back to the 2 episodes a week. Sorry for all the delays the last couple of weeks. I know I've said that, we're going back to 2. Like I said, I've had a lot going on, and it's just been a slow news cycle the last little bit. But now we're in August. We've got starting quarterbacks being named. We've got basketball news that's coming up. I know the Field of 68 guys just did their Alabama preview. I also have some Southeastern 16 guys that I plan to talk to. We have plenty of stuff upcoming, so even if I have to bring in some guests, I plan to, just have 2 episodes a week for the foreseeable future. So if you have any guests or anybody that you would be interested in having me talk to, please let me know. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.